Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Ramadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantharaj Shimam Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum, Chapter 68, the Marriage of Samba, text number 30. Tachutva naratoktena Rajan sanjatamanyava Kurum pratyudyamam chakrur Ugrasena prachodita Tachutva naratoktena Rajan sanjatamanyava Kurum pratyudyamam chakrur Ugrasena prachodita Tachutva naratoktena Rajan sanjatamanyava Kurum pratyudyamam chakrur Ugrasena prachodita. Please chant. Tachutva naratoktena Rajan Sanjatamanava Kurum Pratyudaman Chakrurum Ugrasena Prachodhitat Tat This Srutva hearing Narada of Narada Muni Uktena through the statements Rajan, O King Parikshit, Sanjata, awaken, Manyavaha, whose anger, Kurum, the Kurus, Prati, against, Udyamam, preparations for war, Chakruhu, they may, Ugrasena, by King Ugrasena, Prachoditaha, urge on. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O King, when the Yadavas heard news of this from Sri Narada, they became angry. Urged by King Ugrasena, they prepared for war against the Kurus. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, the great sage Narada immediately carried the news to the Yadu dynasty that Shamba was arrested and told them the whole story. The members of the Yadu dynasty became very angry at Samba's being arrested, and improperly so by 6 warriors. Now, with the permission of the head of the Yadu dynasty king Ugrasena, they prepared to attack the capital city of the Kuru dynasty. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaja Chakshur Umilitam Gyena Tasmai Sri Guru Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Rama Paswami Dinamine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Satarine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, the Yadavas heard about this from Narada. They were urged on by Ugrasena, not by Krishna, since it was not proper to make such effort for his son in the midst of elders, relatives, and friends. And he also knew the intention of Balaram. He also respected that he had given control of the kingdom to Ugrasena. So, we see here that upon receiving the news, Maharaj Ugrasena, the king of the Yadus, is preparing for war. So, one may say, or one may analyze, okay, a war is a major thing. It's a huge decision because war means using the ultimate resource of violence to establish rule and order. So it's a very serious decision that have to be very carefully used. In general, the principle is that that's the last resource of negotiating or ruling in one sense, the use of violence. The consequence of war is the usage of so many resources, and specifically how these resources are going to be spent, are going to be lost. both human resources and material resources. And Kshatriyas are ready to do that. It's just part of the nature of the Kshatriyas. So the understanding is that when you have all that power, it have to be properly used. So what is the use? In one sense, we see here that that this was something that immediately was called for. Is appears to be for the king to immediately call for to prepare for war against the Kurus. So the principle itself of violence is just part of the Kshatriya Dharma, or the, um, the duties, or the Kshatriya, the duties of the administrative body of society. Violence is part of it. Now, one may question that because we know that a general principle of religion is considered one of the legs of religion is non-violence, is the, the principle of compassion. So how is that then violence becomes such an important um, part of the ruling body of society? So we have a general principle, but it's explained that when you have a specific principles or a specific duties, so or a specific principles. So you have the general principles and you have the specific principles. The specific principles at the end are the strongest one. So for a Kshatriya, there is an specific principle. And this principle doesn't apply to all the other ones. It's for the Kshatriyas. It's specific to the Kshatriyas. That the Kshatriyas are, are allowed, and it's part of their duty, to display violence when it's needed, or to act violently when it's needed. It's the way the whole structure for mankind has been designed by Krishna himself. He designed this social body that is structured by these two parallel um, institutions, in one sense. There's the Varna and there's the ashram. There's an institution to do with one's material propensity, an institution to do with one's spiritual status. And that's a structure that is there for society. It's designed by Krishna. And each part is a manifestation of the Lord's universal body. As explained in the second chapter, in the second canto, when Sukadev Goswami is explaining to Maharaj Parikshit the manifestation of the universal form, the Virat Rupa. And he explains that, let me see here. Actually, no, this is not in the second chapter. This is in the third canto, when the personality of Godhead is explaining the manifestation of the universal form. So he say, thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of the gigantic Virat form. The power of protection. The word is Yo Yatas Trayate Varnam. The power of protection is generated from the arms of the gigantic Virat form, and in relation to such powers, the Kshatriyas also became into existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society from the disturbance of thieves and miscreants. So, the function of the Kshatriya is to protect. The word Kshatriya means the Sanskrit meaning of the word Kshatriya is authority. So the Kshatriya is the holder of authority. There's also a breakdown of the word Kshatriya. The Prabhupada breaks that down. The word Shat means hurt, or how he put it? Yes, hurt. So once an atraya means to give protection, or trayate means to give protection, and shat means hurt. So one who protects from hurt is a kshatriya. So the rule of a kshatriya, or the principle of a kshatriya, is to protect society. And to protect society, it is important that the kshatriya displays power. And when you have power, then if it's anything that is outside, or is when there is a disturbance in principles of religion, the Kshatriya is obliged to protect society. Like it is explained here that the Kshatriya is an extension or a manifestation of the power of protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested in the universal form in this world. And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that part of the when the Lord, or the principles that the Lord is that is intent, or the intent of the Lord to protect the world, to protect the principles of religion in the world. He says that in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that when these principles of religions are disturbed and there is a rise in irreligion, then he comes personally. And then he makes a statement that in the implication of the statement, there's violence. The personality of God has said, this is Krishna speaking. So Krishna says, Paritranaya Sadunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam. Vinashaya means destroy, to eliminate, to destroy miscreants. He doesn't say necessarily to reform miscreants. Vinasha means destroy. So the destruction of miscreants. And he displayed that in his pastimes. Krishna kill, battle, and kill demoniac entities. And in one sense, something that becomes quite a point of contention and doubt for so-called or for mundane moralists, that when they come in contact with the Bhagavad Gita, they question, how can we worship a God that is encouraging war and killings and violence. It's difficult to understand because this idea of, you know, that violence is something that is unwanted, and there is something that is that, in one sense, is a product to be violent. Violence comes generally associated with anger, with frustration, and destruction. So it's something that is associated to the mode of ignorance. So how, in pure goodness, can we talk about violence? It doesn't make sense. So we have mundane moralists, that's a point that they can manage. We have this example of Mahatma Gandhi, that part he could not pass through, especially because the principle that he was embracing was a principle of nonviolence, and he had a whole political movement, an agenda that was based on nonviolence. And he's using the wisdom of the Gita to to in one sense support the his ideals and his principles. So this part, he have said it in his commentaries on the Gita, that the Krishna who is encouraging war, that Krishna he doesn't accept. But you cannot choose and pick with the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is absolute, and whatever the personality of Godhead does, is perfect and complete, perfectly religious and perfectly in goodness. So the question is how to understand how this violence is something that is a manifestation of the pure goodness of the personality of Godhead. So when our Vaishnavacharyas speak of ahimsa or non-violence, it doesn't only refer to the actions against to hurt a physical body, but it also specifically refers to actions that are there to curb the the rightful advancement of human society in consciousness. In other words, the principles of religions are there that Krishna delineates and give for human society. These principles of religions are meant for the conditioned souls to elevate themselves, to flourish. So when there's a disturbance in these principles of religion, that is violence. That's the ultimate violence. So that is hurting society. That is dragging society into hellish situation. When the principles of religions are disrupted, then society becomes ruined. So that is the ultimate violence. When one has a particular capacity or duty to provide and to protect principles of religion, or when one sees that there has been a breach on the principles of religion, and one is duty bound to act. And if one doesn't do something about it, means that you're participating in the crime, in a violent crime. So Prabhupada explains that the definition of ahimsa in the 13th chapter of the Gita, the definition of ahimsa is to block the opportunity that any particular individual has to flourish in Krishna consciousness. So to not try to facilitate people in general to receive this opportunity is violence. So a Kshatriya is meant to protect religious principles. It's meant to do exactly what Krishna says he will do when he comes into this material world. The Kshatriya being that extension of the personality of Godhead's protection. That's what it says here, that this protection propensity of the personality of Godhead becomes manifested the Kshatriya. So the Kshatriyas have to perform this activity, the activity of paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskrityan. To give protection to who? To those who are pious, those who are embracing religious principles. You protect them. And for those who disturb and go against and breach religious principles, he punishes. And the punishment can mean elimination. That is the principle of a Kshatriya. That is the principle of a Kshatriya. There's so many quotes in the scriptures that says that. There's a very it's a very important in the Bhagavad Gita. There is Krishna in the second chapter when he's making, because Arjuna was making a case. He wanted to embrace one of the when Arjuna was faced with the huge moral conflict of fighting the war of Kurukshetra, that as a Kshatriya, he was duty bound to fight that war, to establish the principles of religion in the world and to fulfill Krishna's purpose. But in order to do that, he had to kill his family, and specifically his worshipable elders, his grandfather and his spiritual masters. And with that, brothers, cousins, all uncles, all kinds of family members. So it was hugely conflicting for him. And he started to choose and pick principles that are there as part of religion, the religious principles, the laws for human beings. And he took general principles, the principles of nonviolence, the principles of compassion, and he makes a case for that. He makes a case. So why should I fight this war? Why should I, when there's a higher principle, is a principle of nonviolence? He was making the case that if he's engaged in this war, that is going to be a massive loss of kings, of heads of societies. Then what is going to happen to society? He is going to be the instrument of destroying all these different kings who are the protectors of different communities and kingdoms and like that. So he was afraid when that happens, then all these societies will go to ruin. And then he will be the cause of this terrible situation that will cause hellish um, conditions for so many people, for the people of the world. So he's saying, I'm going to hell. This is going to lead to hell for me. It's sinful. He was afraid of sinful reactions. He's making that case in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Fear of sinful reactions. He's going to go to hell. Now, Krishna counteract that in the second chapter by, first, by letting him know, remind him that of the nature of the soul, the Atma Tattva principles. But then he goes to say, apart from the transcendental knowledge of the understanding of the self, it is your duty as a Kshatriya to do this. And the fact is that, he says that considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And there is no need for hesitation. So this is the thing. There is a what's the word that is used there? There's a catch, or there's a very clear requirement for engaging in war, that it have to be for protecting religious principles, on religious principles. So it's very desirable. And then Krishna goes on to say that O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planet. So not to hell, to heaven. A Kshatriya who is engaged in a war for protecting principles of religion, Krishna explains, if he wins, he rules in a righteous kingdom. If he dies, he goes to heaven. So Arjuna was explaining in his rational why not to fight. He said, if I win, I'll be suffering like anything. I lose. Because everyone that I want to enjoy the kingdom with will be dead. I will be the cause of their death. So if I win, I lose. And if I lose, I go to hell. So I lose. So it's a lose situation. It's a loss situation. If I win, I lose. And if I lose, I also lose. But Krishna is saying, no. If you win because you'll be establishing a religious, atmosphere. You'll be protecting that. And if you lose, you win because you go to heaven. So, and then in the purport, Prabhupada quotes from the Parashat Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara Muni, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva. He states, quote, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties. And for that reason, he have to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. It's something very interesting that this is the comment of Srila Prabhupada. And many Vaishnava acharyas, and even Shankaracharya, he has wonderful comments on the Bhagavad Gita. And he have this very nice comment on this verse. He explains this. This is Adi Shankaracharya from the Advaita Sampradaya, comment on the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Again, does that battle become a duty? This means answers as follow. Then he says this: a specific rule is more authoritative than a general rule. Non-violence is a general rule enjoined by the scriptures, but the duty of fighting is a specific rule for a Kshatriya. Partha, O son of Partha, are not those Kshatriyas Sukhina happy who Labhante come across a Judan battle, Idrisan of this kind, Upanan which presents itself, Jadricha unsought for, and which is apabritam, open, Swargadwaram, gate to heaven. So, um, so this principle is there, the principle of the principle of violence, but it have to be to protect religion. It have to be based on religious principles. So we have here King Ugrasena immediately preparing for war. What are the principles of religion that has been breached here? That he have to establish, he have to immediately do that. And why he have to do it? Why you know, why not immediately think that okay, let's look for alternatives? Well, King Ugrasena says that the part that was very angering in terms of something that was not appropriate was how Shamba was being arrested and how he was done in a very irreligious, improper way by many warriors, combining to um, to to defeat Shamba. So not only the Yadava prince was taken in that way, but it was done in a way that it was not according to Kshatriya principles or Kshatriya rules. So Shamba did something that the Kurus were uh, justified to attack him, to go to war against him, because Shamba went into their midst and kidnapped the princess right in the Swayambara ceremony. So for the Kurus, it's insulting, and one can understand that. If you're a parent and um, and someone comes and kidnap your daughter, we have parents here with a daughter. Immediately, it's a violation. So they have the duty to attack, and they did that. But also, it's part of Kshatriyas. It's part of the Kshatriya culture, and it's part of the accepted. It's something that is a norm. It's not out of the norm. It's within the Kshatriyas. Uh, um, Dharma, they have that also. There's a different ruling for these people. So the Kshatriya could go and displace this chivalry and displace power and being able to conquer. So when a Kshatriya comes and do that, then it's something that is accepted. It's one of the accepted 8 different type of marriage. We have talked that in the classes. It's called the Rakshasa Vivaha. That is the Kshatriya is able to kidnap against the will of the bride, and but he have to be ready to face, a war, or he have to be ready to confront the the kingdoms that he's challenging. In that confrontations, there's rules too, and the Kshatriyas will follow that rule. If the Kshatriya who has kidnapped the bride wins, then it's all accepted. We saw that when Krishna kidnapped Rukmini. Krishna, all the kings, I mean, the kingdom, the kingdom in which Rukmini was a princess, they attacked Krishna, headed by Rukmini's brother, Rukmi. And all the kings that were participating in Swayambara, they also attacked Krishna. And Krishna defeated them all. And then it was settled. Then now there was a peaceful arrangement. So, but in this case, the Kurus breached those principles, because when they couldn't defeat Samba, they did it in an illegal way. The same thing happens during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which the son of Arjuna, Abhimanyu, was killed. The Kurus were not able to defeat him on a, like Kshatriyas are supposed to, it's a rule that they do, on equal footing. So you fight one on one. But in this case, many, many Kshatriyas have to they combine to be able to defeat him. And that was a breach on Kshatriya principles. And therefore now the Kurus have to face the Yadavas going and fight them. So we will hear, that now Balaram, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna knew Balaram's intention, and Lord Balaram is going to, we're going to do diplomacy first before attacking. And Lord Balaram itself is, if we're going to see the pastime, that he's going to give them the chance, because there is the relationship with the Yadavas and the Kurus was always very strong, and there's and they're connected too, because the queen of the Kurus is a Yadava. So Kunti, and so we're gonna try to work this out. So given the opportunity to release Shamba and send him to Dwarka with the principles, with acceptance and great pomp. So, and if they don't follow, then there will be violence. And Lord Balaram did that. He was going to destroy the whole kingdom. And he did that. We will hear in the in the past time. Lord Balaram was dragging the city towards the Ganges. So the whole city dragged. So this principle of war, um, we have the same principles of violence uh, is there for Kshatriyas, but is there for Kshatriyas. That's one of the dharmas of Kshatriyas, but also Kshatriyas have to be perfectly religious. They have to be they have to be enlightened souls. They have to display, to be a Kshatriya. They have to display of these great qualities of, the Bhagavad Gita explains not only power, but also generosity, religiosity, piety, control of the senses. All these things are qualities of Kshatriyas. So only those Kshatriyas that are real Kshatriyas can display these things, because you know that when the Kshatriyas uses violence is to protect the principles of religion. But then when we have so-called Kshatriyas that don't have the qualities of a Kshatriya, then is and they use violence, and they and they engage themselves in warfare and all that type of thing, then is that causes health in all sense for everybody. So this type of demoniac kings, so you have, right now in the world, there's a there's a propensity, a very strong propensity to authoritarian rulings. To have a strong man doing being rulers, because in one sense, the perfect system that Krishna has created is authoritarian. Is they're the kings, and kings, are the sole rulers. It's an authoritarian rule. Is so they're the authorities, but in that system, the kings are enlightened. They have they're there because they're supposed, it's by guna and by karma. It's by qualities and by actions. It's not by birth or by popular decisions that one becomes a kshatriya. So then you have these strong, powerful persons that establish authority. Chatra means the holder of authority. So it's authoritarian. But then we have that same principle, a strong man without the qualities of a Kshatriya, with no qualities, ruling, then it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And then when we see people, you see people right now who are taking those positions and are causing so much suffering and are creating so much an environment of fear, that because there's no the qualities of a kshatriya, there's no control of the senses, there's no selflessness, there's no service, there's no generosity, there's no compassion, there's even no chivalry, because it's just it's very, very terrible situation. You have people who are basically ruling according to their personal interests. And when they take the position of a Kshatriya, the holder of authority, then without these qualities, they cause hell. And they have to be eliminated. Krishna will do that through the agency of his energy or personally. It always happens. I'm going to finish with this. It happens in several occasions in, well, this is a conversation that Kardama Muni had with Swayambhuva Manu, that, you know, tell us that he was telling that, yes, the kings should display, this power, because without displaying these powers, then it will be chaos in society. Thieves and all kinds of unwanted elements will flourish. So the king have to show power and have to show the capacity of being able to display violence. So actually, they should display some power that people would tremble. He makes the earth, just like, I mean, is this all that, yeah, you don't do stuff in this because you're gonna be eliminated. That type of, rule, that if you have to fear the power of the king if you break the laws. If you do something against the laws, finish. And Maharaj Parikshit displays that when Kali personified was beating a bull who was the personification of religious principle. He was breaking the legs of the bull. And Maharaj Parikshit immediately chastised and was about to kill the personality of Kali, who was described as an impostor dressed as a king, as a Sudra dressed as a king. So in the presence we have that. We have Sudras, we have Vaishyas, we have less than Sudras dressed in the garb of the king and trying to displace, the authorities and the principles of a strong man that Kshatriyas are meant to do, but with no qualities. So this is very, very different. Right here we're seeing, powerful Kshatriyas, like immediately and automatically considering violence when they see that very important principles are being breached. And especially, in this situation, when one of the princes, one of the prince of the dynasty is being victimized in an illegal way, then that is something that creates for the whole kingdom or for the whole system or for the whole dynasty. It can create problems that weakens their capacity to protect their society. So it is important to establish that. And that is, that is the whole uh, activities of these warriors and kshatriyas. Any comments or questions?
I'm going to try and articulate something that's I want to clarify better. You painted the picture that on the part of the Kurus, and was mentioned in the verse, there were 6 warriors who banded together in order to arrest Samba, who'd kidnapped the daughter of Duryodhan. So the reason King Ugrasena wanted the Yadavas to go to war was because it was unjust, the arrest of Samba by 6 warriors. And at the same time, you had spoken about that it was natural that there should be some concern that a daughter in the lineage had been kidnapped. So the part that I'm finding myself questioning is the nature of the Swayambara is that the young woman can select a potential husband. And so if somebody were to, one out of those assembled princes, if one were to kidnap her, so to speak, meaning, take charge of her, then it's actually the other princes who would have to go into battle with that prince that had stolen, you could say, or kidnapped. She didn't announce, this is the person I choose, or this is the test I have, and the person who is most accomplished and achieves the result of that test will be my future husband. So if somebody takes it upon themselves, as Samba did, to kidnap her, then it would be the other princes who had come there with the same intention to be her potential husband. They would be the ones who would have to fight with Samba. But in this case, it's the warriors, the very accomplished members of the Kuru dynasty that then proceed to actually arrest Samba. So it's an interesting situation from the point of view of that no space is given to the other princes to fight Samba, rather that the warriors step in. And I understand the reason, as you were explaining, was this concern with the kidnapping. But then again, the kidnapping is not an unusual thing, and it really would be the duty of the other princes to fight Samba. So I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, it's a culture that is foreign to our Kali Yuga experience. We don't have to all the complexities of all these arrangements. At least I'm not fully aware of or know or understand. But there's something for sure that you can infer. That one is that within those, because there's through the scriptures there is so many different circumstances that narrate the same thing. That Swayambaras, are the princess choose, but it's open. There's a door that could happen, and it's just part of it. So then, as you said, there is the specific thing is that everybody is very civilized. It already has an arrangement. All the invited prince and kings, come, and then you stands there. I don't know how you do. You be there, and then the prince, and then you have to display certain things, There may be certain specific rules. In the case of Draupadi, there's this contest, of skills with the arc, with a bow and arrow that have to be done in order to gain to. So she was not choosing there. Although it was a Swayambara, there's a particular thing that you have to, show to win her. And then in the case of Sita, was whoever can string the bow, then will win her. So there's a lot of you know there's a lot of different rules and arrangements within the Swayambara. Um, but one of them is that there is a possibility that among one of those kings or some king, huh, and kings too, they come, uh, they can kidnap, they can take it by force. And in one sense, is something that is part of the Swayambara, that the parents will do that. The parents, the king and the queen that will do that, try to marry, they want their daughter, the princess, to be the queen of a powerful warrior. But part of the test of that is that if you come here to challenge the whole, arrangement, then you have to be ready. So you may have to defeat all the princes and kings that are there, but you also have to defeat us if we so, you know. So, like in the case right here, is like, whoever was there, princes and kings, were not in the same level of power than the Kuru dynasty. The Kuru dynasty was the rulers of the world by Krishna's arrangement, but um, so therefore the highlight is it was the Kurus, the one who were given the big battle to Shamba. The other ones probably were, there too, the princes and the things, and the other kings that were participating. In the case of Krishna kidnapping Rukmini, there's a narration. The narration is that because one of the main characters there was Shalva, which was one of the demoniac kings that were very inimical to Krishna, and Shalva's close associate, Jarasandha, who is been attacking Krishna already, you know, dozens of times. And so they all were there. And, they in this case, it was not a Swayambara, it was, the marriage of Shalva and Rukmini. So they were all celebrating that, Shalva's associates. So in that case, Shalva attacked, but also the family. I mean, when all the kings realize they can defeat the Yadavas, Krishna and Balarams are too strong, they retreat. Rukmi, went nuts, and then he makes all those vows. I won't come back if I don't defeat Krishna, blah blah blah, So, so yeah, is something that at the end, not only all the, not the taking by force is challenging everybody that is there, the participants of the ceremony and the organizers of the ceremony. Is quite, a display of disruption, but you really have to be, I mean, it would be suicidal if you try to do that if you don't have the capacity to defeat everybody else, everybody that is involved. So Shamba, you know, It's like it's displayed. You enter like a lion, and you take your prey. Krishna is described like that. So you have to have those displays. And this is part of the Kshatriya culture, Kshatriya rules. And it's all bona fide. Now, you have to be, you get, examples of crooks and low class people trying to imitate those things, and it becomes an abominable situation, that and that's what is called is a rakshasha, is a demoniac, type of thing. Anyway, that much I can say. You have anything, Puja?
Dynasties and gurus, and it's like very fascinating to hear all the stories about how Krishna manifested these rules and principles. And
Mm,
if we relate that in this present world, it's not possible.
right.
We can't relate those things which is on religious principle and try to copy or imitate,
Yeah, there
those.
was there was there was one of the narrations in the Srimad Bhagavatam is the rise of this demoniac Kshatriya or King Vena. That the and although he was performing all the things of the Kshatriyas, he was there was no thieves, there was no but and he was so authoritative and powerful, but because he didn't have the qualities of the Kshatriya of knowledge, self-control, generosity, compassion, all the things, he was not enlightened, then he was a demoniac, and he started to disturb all the followers of religious principles were considered by him. It's like what Krishna says. Demoniac means that you think you take religion for irreligiosity and religiosity for irreligion. Like that. So, um, so he had to be killed. He had to be eliminated. So he was killed by the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas in the kingdom decided, no, this is just too much. So they kill him, and then from his body, the Maharaj Prithu, a manifestation of the personality of Godhead, Shakti Avatar, manifested. So, yeah, these so-called rulers of society now that are creating so much pain and disturbance and wars that are not for religious principles, but they're for selfish agendas um, that are causing a great disturbance and fear in the whole world. They their future is hell, according to the scriptures. There's a specific hell for rulers that causes harm to society, and also, uh, yeah, it, Krishna by his agents will take care, or sometimes it comes personally, but it will happen. All right, stop here. Prantara Bhagavatam ki jai.